Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. As I mentioned, Jesus went to India and to know about the spirituality, to know about their religion, and something. When he come back, and then of course he married, even though there is a lot of discussion that some says he did not married, but some says he married, even though he born from the Virgin Mary, and even in Quran and also the Christianity and all Judaism all believe that, which is there is obvious. When he born, he had no father, and then, however, he became as a minister and the Judaism to talk about something unusual, something is new, even though it's related to the Torah, to the Old Testament that was written, but not those books which come from the Torah. However, and he married also, and but no children, and he come back from the India. Then he baptized by the John Baptist, because the baptized system is they believe the water is the most blessing creations from God. Everybody has to be blessed when how to be sinking in the water. But John was made it in one of the river. I don't know which the river was mean. So there was the Jordan River. They baptized it, and he become, according to their view, he become blessed person. And then next week of that or something to the later or the baptized, he went or he left to desert, and he spent on the desert 40 days. 40 days he was in the desert. So there nobody with him but himself. I think he can support for eating something from the fruit or some kind of vegetarian something. Anyway, the water also there, but 40 days he passed over there. So, and then that time the angel came to him. And then angel came to him and he gave him a congratulation that you are as a prophet. But, and this is the point, the Christianity is saying that God asked him, you are my son. Or somehow he's become a very influential of the religions of the Christianity. And what happened, and he shows from himself all kind of new things, all kind of amazing that he did or he talked as unusual. So all the Jewish become outside of him, and even though they were Jewish, but still they go by whatever he listened from the Jesus. One day he gave a sermon. He had stand up on one of the mountain, and he gave a sermon about he gave I think 8 or 9 points, very strong, that he kind of predict himself that about that he will be crucified. And the people was thinking what he's talking about. And then later on, when he crucified, the same thing, then the people understand, oh, he was talking on that time, was only for that. So they said, and I would like to read it from that directly. So what he said, 9 points. He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled." It means he was thirsty. He was the time he's crucified. He bring all the prediction about himself mostly, and about all other things what they involved. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure, blessed are the peacemaker, for they shall be called the children of God. So, he is talking the people will definitely call the children of God, me. Blessed are they which are the persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. This is also in the Matthew, the verse number 5. This is the entirely quoted that. So Jesus had always demand of the vocation to all human being, and without any own interest, and he was the most truth person. And even the Matthew, the book of the all talking about himself, about his. He was the pray for the all despiteful Jews and persecute somebody to punish the other. And he said, if someone is slap you, do not be harmed, and then turn the other face even. Let him to do what he has jealous, or he has something. So all these things which he did, and at the same time the Jewish did not like him, and ultimately the people was against him, and then they crucified him. He crucified on the Friday, and he was buried before the start of the Saturday. But then Sunday, the disciple of his disciple came to anoint in his body by oil, to apply for it, and then there was a kind of custom to be the death has to be safe, or has to be for a long time in the grave, or somehow. So, but then they came and they looked at the coffin. Is inside the coffin is not there, the body is not there, and the one who 2-3 people was there of their disciple, they said, this is the time when we buried before put him in. Then the body left elevate. So this is the Jesus of the most historical person in the whole entire religions. So because in our religion was called as a prophet, Isa alayhi salatu wassalam, and he bring the New Testament or New Talking, which is still similar to the Old Testament of those signs of the Musa alayhi salam said. So now we would like to talk. I'm talking about the Old Testament and New Testament briefly, of course. That the Old Testament was the Orthodox, Reformist, the constructionist, and then there was numbering. These are the book or the way or the school of the Judaism. And the New Testament was come out by the disciple after the 150 years after the Jesus Christ, and by the Matthew and Mark and Luke and John. So they are bringing what the different is gradually the Greek translation of the Old Testament, called the Christian Bible, was widely accepted and was even used in many languages. It also became a wonderful missionary tool for the early Christian, and people of Greek could read God's word in their own tongues. So the New Testament authors wrote in Greek. Oh, there is when they translate the Old Testament to the New, also the language was also important. One was the Hebrew, one was the Aramaic, and then was the Hebrew was little bit hard. Greek was easy. So in that time the problem was come out, and of course they make us just as a pretend. We don't know what he's talking about because they don't like the Jesus. And it was, of course, in a way of every society, every community, when someone has come out the righteousness, and of course there is against them the people supposed to be. This is the nature of the human being in the whole, from day one until the end of the life, probably. So I will give you one of the break also, and then I come back, inshallah. I will talk a little bit more, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.